Amid one of the most intense weeks in the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict, international pressure is mounting for peace. As accusations of ceasefire violations fly, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has now proposed direct talks with Ukraine, potentially opening a new chapter in a war now entering its fourth year. In a rare late-night televised address, President Vladimir Putin proposed direct unconditional peace talks with Ukraine to be held on Thursday, May 15, in Istanbul, the same location where negotiations were last held before being suspended. Putin described the proposal as a first step towards a long-lasting, stable peace, but warned it should not be used by Ukraine as a cover to rearm. He added, "We are ready to eliminate the root causes of the conflict," referring to issues such as NATO eastward expansion.
Despite everything, we propose the Kyiv authorities resume the negotiations they interrupted at the end of 2022, to resume direct negotiations and, I emphasise, without any preconditions. We propose to begin without delay next Thursday, May 15th in Istanbul. We're committed to serious negotiations with Ukraine. Their purpose is to eliminate the root causes of the conflict, to establish a long-term, lasting peace for the historical perspective. We do not rule out that during these negotiations it will be possible to agree on some new truces, a new ceasefire.
This came just hours after the leaders of Germany, France, the UK, and Poland, standing beside Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev, demanded a 30-day ceasefire starting Monday, threatening massive sanctions if Moscow refused. Russia had earlier declared a unilateral May 8 till 10th ceasefire to mark Victory Day, hosting global leaders including China's Xi Jinping and Brazil's Lula da Silva at a Red Square military parade. But fighting never stopped. Ukraine reported 162 armed clashes, 22 airstrikes, and nearly 1,000 drones attacked in 24 hours. Russian forces reportedly attempted to break through Ukrainian lines 51 times, with heavy fighting near Pokrovsk. In Sumy, 3 civilians were killed. Zaporizhzhia region saw 220 artillery strikes on frontline villages. Russian officials accused Ukraine of attacks in Belgorod and Kursk, including a drone strike on a government building. Both sides accused each other of violating the ceasefire, with Ukraine dismissing it as a farce. The growing intensity drew in world leaders. US President Donald Trump, who has made ending the war a personal priority, called for 30-day unconditional ceasefire last week. In a post on Truth Social, he warned that the US and its allies would impose further sanctions if it wasn't respected. On Friday, Trump added that he wants Putin and Zelensky to finish this stupid war. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has held talks with Ukrainian and Russian officials, including Putin, Zelensky, and their top security aides. He said talks would begin at a neutral site if both sides agreed. Meanwhile, European leaders arrived in Kiev together. Macron, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Poland's Donald Tusk to show unity and demand an immediate ceasefire on land, air, and sea. Zelensky responded by stating that unconditional means no conditions, and any attempt to add them signals a desire to prolong war, not end it. Despite the unified front, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that while Russia supports a 30-day ceasefire in principle, there are still nuances to resolve, chief among them the continued flow of US and European weapons to Ukraine. He added that Europe is openly confronting Russia and described attempts to pressure Moscow as useless. Still, Putin has not ruled out talks, stating that the decision to proceed lies with Ukrainian authorities. Meanwhile, North Korea's Kim Jong-un expressed support for Russia, calling its action just a defense of a brother nation. In a tit-for-tat move, Ukraine and Hungary expelled 2 diplomats each, accusing each other of espionage. Despite the rising death toll and battlefield chaos, hopes remain fragile. Putin's Istanbul proposal has not yet been formally accepted by Ukraine, but it's been seen as a possible diplomatic opening. Peskov says the Kremlin is grateful for US mediation, even as it remains resistant to outside pressure. The clock now ticks toward Monday's ceasefire deadline, as outlined by Europe and backed by Trump. Whether the guns fall silent or another round of blame and bloodshed begins remains to be seen. This has been your news roundup for Ukraine-Russia conflict. For latest news and global insight, subscribe to Dawn News English.